Frank Tufano is a popular content creator here on YouTube. He's a proponent of the carnivore diet and regularly bashes vegans, including on this past Thanksgiving. He has posted many What I Eat in a Day videos in the past, and he put up another one about a week ago. I thought that since Frank claims his carnivore diet is so rich in nutrients, I would see for myself. But surprise, surprise, Frank is slowly killing himself. For breakfast, he had what looks like approximately 12 ounces of pork shoulder and 8 duck egg yolks. He ate all this raw, which I don't feel I have to tell you is a massive food poisoning risk. But not only is Frank a denialist when it comes to blood cholesterol and heart disease, he's also a denialist about food poisoning. His only other meal of the day was 4 whole quails and 12 ounces of lamb breast. I plugged this into Chronometer. He did add some pinches of salt that I didn't include because it would be a major estimation on my part, and there are enough problems here without looking at sodium. So let's give it a look. Duck egg yolks on their own were not available, so I just selected whole duck eggs. We can see he consumed 3,400 calories, almost no carbohydrates, so his diet is extremely high in protein. High protein diets can be defined in 3 ways, either by the total amount consumed, the percentage of total calories, or the total per kilogram of body weight for the individual. No matter how you slice it, eating 300 grams of protein a day, which is 35% of his calories, Frank is putting himself at risk for several blood complications such as high levels of free amino acids, ammonia, and insulin, as well as nausea, diarrhea, and even death, according to this review from the International Journal of Sport Nutrition and Exercise Metabolism. Frank also consumes super high amounts of saturated fat, trans fat, and cholesterol, which are all, of course, linked to elevated blood LDL levels and heart disease. Frank will deny this all night long. But depicted in this graph from a 27-year study in the American Heart Association Journal on almost 37,000 people at a low 10-year risk of heart disease, individuals with LDL scores such as Frank's developed fatal heart conditions over 3 times more frequently than did individuals with a score closer to mine, a vegan. Frank can lower his cholesterol by taking some of that saturated fat he eats and replacing it with mono or polyunsaturated fats or complex fiber-rich carbohydrates. But he won't do that because
the whole cholesterol hypothesis in general is based on injecting rabbits with cholesterol. So I'm not going to go into that.
So next, let's take a look at his micronutrients. I find it very ironic that Frank is constantly touting how his diet is full of vitamins, specifically fat-soluble vitamins. But on this day, he only met the RDA for 1 of the 4 fat-soluble vitamins. Now, of course, without consuming any fresh fruits or vegetables, vitamin C for Frank is dangerously low. At less than 8 milligrams a day, he will develop scurvy if his intake remains this low for an extended period of time. The amount needed regularly to prevent scurvy is 10 milligrams. But once again, Frank disagrees.
That 10 milligram amount was used in people consuming carbohydrates. This is important because increasing carbohydrate consumption increases the demand for vitamin C. This is as a result of GLUT pathways in the body competing with vitamin C, glucose versus vitamin C, essentially.
He is right that vitamin C, in its oxidized form, which is dehydroascorbic acid, is transported into cells via the glucose transporter GLUT1. However, there is zero evidence that this competing effect that he mentions takes place, and that eating less carbohydrate lowers your need for vitamin C. I don't see people who eat a lot of carbohydrates in the groups of people at risk for deficiency, according to the National Institutes of Health. And I find it incredibly ironic that the image Frank put up when he mentioned the glucose transporter is taken from an article discussing vitamin C halting colorectal cancer cell growth. Unbelievable. Absolutely shameless. Furthermore, we've known for 30 years that vitamin C is a major antioxidant within the bloodstream, meaning that even if what Frank says was true, it would still not matter. Frank has mentioned that beef brains and spleens are good carnivore sources of vitamin C, so I checked that out as well. We can see that you would need to consume 31 ounces, which is just shy of 2 pounds of beef brains a day to meet the RDA for vitamin C. For my non-American friends, this is almost nearly a kilo of beef brains in a single day. This is already ridiculous to expect from people at face value, but consider that the amount of beef brains would give you almost 100 times the recommended upper limit on daily dietary cholesterol. Frank doesn't care, as we've already seen, but facts don't care about his feelings. Next we have spleen, which I've definitely seen in my local grocery store, ever. Only 7 ounces required this time to meet the RDA for vitamin C, so a more reasonable serving. However, eating that would give you over 11 times the RDA for iron, which is a very high dose, and that's just for 200 calories worth of food. Consider that all of Frank's diet contains lots of iron, and it's even worse. Plus, all of it is animal-based heme iron, which is associated with higher incidence of coronary heart disease, according to this meta-analysis from 2014. Heme iron also increases our body's reactive oxygen species, which contribute to atherosclerosis and cancers. More on that in a moment. Frank also was very low on this day in manganese intake. Manganese deficiency can cause altered lipid metabolism, skeletal defects, and reduced fertility, but it also has been associated with higher levels of reactive oxygen species, so yet another way that Frank is increasing his risk for chronic disease. Frank could benefit from consuming some of the top sources of dietary manganese, many of which come from the plant kingdom. So, bottom line is the carnivore diet, Frank Tufano's version of the carnivore diet, are horrible for your health. They are horrible for the environment. If you're interested in learning more about that, check out Mike the Vegan's video on this topic. And of course, the carnivore diet is horrible for animals. So we really should not even be entertaining this idea. Frank Tufano is horribly misguided and dangerous. Time to go carnivore is never, but the time to go vegan is now.
I get discredited a lot whenever I make a video.